G'day, it's Joel Rasmussen for Southern Cross Combat and ahead of his fight at Hex 32. I'm here at Combat 1 talking to Mr. Jono Micallef. Jono, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. You were just training a little bit before we did this. How was training today?
Yeah, it was really good. We're just what are we? We're a week out today. Today's week from fight day, so just really starting to dial in things and slow it down more than anything, which is nice. You know, all the hard work's done, so now is just the time to let the body recover, and then come fight night next week, we'll let them go.
That's when it switches on. You're kind of keeping the engine warm. How is it? I was going to talk about this later, but since we're kind of talking about it, some of your teammates, the amateur guys, are fighting today. How is it to be in the room where you're kind of keeping the engine warm because you can't do anything too crazy, and neither can they? But still, like, there's that fight atmosphere in the air. How is it?
To be honest, whenever I'm cornering, I always get more nervous cornering, being back there, than I do when I'm actually like getting ready to fight myself. But we'll see. We'll see how we go tonight. Had a bit of a move around with the boys who are fighting tonight. They're looking phenomenal. And you know, it just gives you that energy, gets you fucking really pumped up. You know, there's nothing really like it. Like whenever you're around fighters, whether you're fighting yourself or just cornering, it's like, you know, there's an energy there. There's something there that's just you can't remake it. It's cool.
The last time you and I spoke, sitting in this very spot, we talked about being the captain and kind of that role. And you talked about how you felt about it now, but still, that's an evolving role. You know, as you continue to be a leader. How is that feeling when, you know, obviously Sammy's leading the men into battle, but you're right there, you're also cornering. How do you feel about that leadership role?
Yeah, I sort of feel like I'm like second in charge. You know, when Sammy actually just went and had a baby, so while he was away, it was up to me and a couple of the other guys to step up and take our place, whether it's just helping the guys for their fight camps or just taking classes and coaching. But it's such a great role because it's so rewarding, you know, and you can see why there's so many coaches out there that love what they do, because it's seriously rewarding, almost as much rewarding as fighting itself. Yeah, but I definitely am feeling a lot more comfortable being a captain or just a role model for the guys coming up. Yeah.
We've talked about this before. You are a young gentleman, though. But how is it to be in that role? You're like still a young guy, but people are coming to you, maybe people who have got years more experience, because especially at the amateur level, there's all different people who fight. People who just want to throw their hat into the ring, you know. So you get all different faces, and not even fighting, just coaching. When you are like leading people, and maybe they're like a couple, you know, a few years your senior, like what is that like for you?
It's pretty cool because it's sort of like gives me a point where I'm like, hey, what I'm doing is working. You know, when people are coming to me and asking me questions about things, and sometimes I'm like, fuck, I don't even know. I just, you know, it might be a question about a technique, and it's like, oh, I just do that, or like, how do you get ready for fights and stuff? And it's just like I got taught by such great people that I'm just, you know, sharing that knowledge onto the next generation or the next guys coming up.
Now we're in a very fun atmosphere right now, but I do want to talk about the past before we talk about the future. If we can, I'd like to talk about the past. I'd like to talk about the last fight. How have you been since then? You know, never easy to take a loss. No one wants to, especially the first one in your career. How have you been since then? How have you kind of been handling it?
Yeah, I feel that I probably take losses better than I take my wins. Just because it's sort of like the acknowledgement of loss is a part of life. You know, it's just normal. You're not going to win everything, but as much as you try to, you know, you fucking definitely try and win everything. But when you don't, you just got to accept it. But I feel like as well at the moment I've got so much going on in my life outside of fighting that it makes it a lot easier. You know, and also it's although I lost, you know, and it's made me take a step back and have to, you know, probably take a little bit more time in getting to my goal, which sucks that it's going to take longer. But at the same time, it's sort of like given me a new fire. You know, it's just added petrol to the fire and really ignited a new like. I wouldn't say passion because the passion's all there. I don't know how to explain it, but just something new that I've never had, and just trying to be better and realizing that you're not as good as you thought you were, you know, or I still think I am as good as I thought I was. I just got caught out, and I think Alden's also very good, but it's just like yeah, just striving even more than I thought I could to get to the goal.
Of course, as you said, it is a speed bump on that journey, but the journey remains the same. Um, people, the first loss of a fighter's career, I think, is something very interesting because, and I'd like you to speak on this because I don't know. Um, the concept of like, there's a lot riding kind of on like the undefeated. You're winning, you're winning, you're winning, and then as you kind of touched on, you've got other things other than this in your life. Is there any feeling of like after the loss and it sucks and it doesn't feel good? But nothing else fell apart. Like we kind of shared some words on the night after it happened. But like you go home and you're like, well, I still got the house, still got my lovely wife. I come into training, everyone's still happy. Like is there any almost like a relief of like, all right, the world's not going to end if things don't go my way?
Yeah, definitely a part of it. I think once a fight is over, regardless of the result, there's always like almost like a relief of, sort of get back into the normal routine of things. But then, once a couple of weeks pass, you lust for that pressure. Well, I do anyway. I want it back. So yes, there is a release of pressure, but then you're like, well, the type of person I am, you want it back. That's why I'm a fighter. You want that feeling. And something that most fighters, I assume, are chasing. But yeah, definitely. After like getting home and realizing everything is still exactly how it was. It was the next day was my birthday. I went up to my parents' house and then they sang happy birthday to me. Literally the day after the fight, and it was just like, dude, these guys don't care if I win or lose. You know what I mean? Like they fucking love me regardless. It's like, you know, as much as it sucked to lose and you no longer have your undefeated aura and you lose that the aura that you have as an undefeated guy coming up. Nothing besides that changes. I'm still going to get in there and get wins. I'm still going to fight and pursue it, and I still love it. It's yeah.
Talking about that everything in the life still kind of is still there, as you said, the family is there for you no matter what. There's a kind of a weird in between that exists because those are the people who have personal relationships with you, so they are there. Something I noticed that was interesting, I don't know why it stuck out to me so much. The fight's over, you're leaving the cage, you're the hometown boy, so most people are there to cheer you on. And there's this moment where you're standing on the steps of the cage and you put your hands up and like everyone cheers because they're all happy to see you. This is after the fight. What was like that moment like? Because while there's people in the crowd that there's also people you don't, right? And I don't know if it did mean anything to you, but it struck me as something where you've just gone through this loss and it doesn't feel good and you've lost the belt and all this, but everyone is still cheering for you and you're in your hometown and all of the Melbourne Pavilion's still cheering for you. Like, what was that like?
It was really cool, and the reason why I actually did that was because, and this is something that I say all the time, is you go in there and fight, and the win, obviously, like people are coming to see you win, but they're coming to watch you fight, and if you give them what they came to see, which I think I definitely did, it was a cracker fight. Some say fight of the year. I don't know. There's been some good fights this year, so I might have gotten stolen from me, but. Yeah, so I gave the people what they wanted to see, and then you get that response because the people they're happy. The people are happy. They got to see two people punch on and draw a bit of blood. Yeah.
Now, final question on the last fight. I feel it has been answered through your answers. I feel like people will understand it, but I'm still going to ask. Hindsight is 2020, of course. But looking back on it, that fight happened because you put your hand up and said, "Alden, come over. I'll fight you." Do you regret doing that?
Nah, not at all. And I think if that fight happens 10 times, I probably win 6 or 7, you know. Alden had he had the power, and he had a phenomenal recovery in between rounds, something that I hadn't anticipated and I've never felt before in there. But I have now, I've gained that experience of that, and it's, yeah, so it's in fighting, I don't think there's ever a time where if you lose, you should say, fuck, I shouldn't have taken that fight, because then you'd never go through all the trials and tribulations that fight gives to you, and it sucks, and it's like it's shit to deal with, but in that there are gems, they're hidden amongst the trials, and they're very, very valuable. Yeah.
Now, looking forward towards this next fight. You are fighting Matt Vaile, a fight that you and I have been speaking about for a while. This is something you've wanted. Um, Take me through how this fight came to be. How was it offered to you? How did you find out that a fight with Matt Vaile was on the table?
As I always say, I've got very good management, very good team. So for me, they basically get in contact with the guys at Hex or whatever promotion there are, and then my coach will come to me with who they think will be the best fight moving forward. Whether that be give me the most exposure, give me a good challenge, because we don't really like to take cans. We don't take easy fights. It's just because if we're gonna fight, we want to be excited. And they just came through with Matt Vaile, both of us coming off losses, both of us top 10 in the Australian welterweight division. So it just made sense. I think it was the perfect fight to be had.
How long have you wanted this fight?
It's not like I've wanted this fight specifically. It's not like I've got bad blood for him or anything. But after the Luciano fight and having all of his guys coming online and messaging and saying how scared I am of him, that was probably the only thing that made me want to fight him. To be like, come on, guys, like, if I was gonna fight him, I'll fight him. I'm not fucking scared of him, Like I take fights against some of the toughest, the most avoided fighters, and probably I'd say Alden's one of them. But yeah, so that was probably the only thing that was like, come on, guys, I'm gonna fight him if that comes up, and that has come up, and here we go.
As you kind of touched on before, I hate to do this. I really do, by the way. He's coming off a win. 2 losses and then a victory. I do hate to do. Actually, I hate to do that. But talking about that, we talked about that kind of undefeated aura a bit earlier. I feel like there was, and this is no disrespect to Matt Vaile, there was a lot of aura around that man. He had the fans online who really hyped him up. And then he goes through 2 fights that don't go his way. He's bounced back with a victory. But what do you make of Matt and his most recent performances?
I actually haven't seen his last win, so I can't speak on that. But his last fight, he didn't look as good as he normally does. So you can't take too much into that. You can't just doubt him. But before that, he was the boogeyman. Like everyone was saying, the most feared welterweight. And I think he's still that same man. He's a fucking good fighter. But I think I'm better. So we'll next week we get to see. Yeah.
It is like you kind of touched on it there with his fan base, and especially like when you fight in a promotion like Hex, they do the press conferences and there is all that, and we do the media and such. It always felt like that's your attitude a little bit of like, we're gonna get in the cage and we're gonna fight. How do you find navigating kind of it all, and when there are people kind of blowing up your phone over the socials? Like, do you tune that out? Do you lean into it? Does that help you? Like, how do you feel about it?
As we get closer to the fight, I try and tune all of it out, because at the end of the day, like, it's irrelevant. It's just smoke. But when we're a couple of weeks out, then I like to feel it and let that motivate me through training and stuff. Like, if people say you're gonna smash him, then like, dude, you gotta fucking train like it, and then I enjoy that energy it gives me. But as we get closer, and obviously media days is probably the closest time you're going to see me on camera outside of the actual fight itself. So I start to really just zone into the fact that tomorrow's fight day, or 2 days out till fight day, or however many days there are, and then that's when I'm like, all right, that's all nothing right now. I'm going to fight, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to fight, how I'm going to beat this man, more than smash him, Jono. Like that sort of stuff is just irrelevant at that point. Yeah.
Talking about the Kit Campbell fight that he had, so 2 fights ago for him, but the last one you kind of got a chance to watch. You talked about how you don't think he showed kind of his full potential that night. This is not a question designed to put down Kit Campbell in any way. Do you think that performance from him, just from your perspective, in your opinion, was that an off night for Matt? Was that a really good night for Kit? A mix of both? Like, what do you kind of think that was, just from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it was probably a little bit of both. Like that, I think that's the best kits ever looked. At the same time as saying that Matt did look off, but just the second round he didn't have much of a sense of urgency. I think maybe more than anything, if I was to put it out. But who knows? Maybe he did actually have an off night. Maybe he didn't. But it is what it is now, and you can only make of it what you can see. You're not going to know what's going on behind the camps, behind closed doors. You know, there's always so much going on between teams and coaches, and just shit happening inside your normal everyday day-to-day life that can affect you. So, yeah, you just got to take it for grain of salt sometimes. But yeah, that's not going to change how I prepare for this fight moving forward.
Talking about that preparation and talking about all different camps and such, you have, as you know, mentioned, this is home base for you. You know, you consider yourself the captain. However, you have been doing a little bit of traveling over the past couple months. First off, I believe you went over to Thailand. How was training in Thailand?
It was fantastic. You know, it was really good to not have to fucking spend 15 minutes getting warm. Like you're there and you're warm, and then you just start training straight away. Yeah, it was really good, and an experience to train amongst some of the best strikers in the world and see what they do and how they do it. And like if you can learn to train like the best in the world, you can immerse yourself around them for a little bit and sort of like try to do that. Then what do you become? Like you become the best striker in the world to a point, obviously. But yeah, so that was sort of the mindset going in there. Really good training, really hard training. And it was all thanks to my manager. Luckily, Justin said, "Hey man, I'm going to send you off," and he just said basically, "Tell me the dates, and I'll fucking send you off." And he did, and such a fantastic man. And he's really supportive. My whole team, even my head coach and stuff, really super supportive of it. And it was just a way of getting me to just keep improving and moving forward off of a loss, you know.
When you go off to Thailand and talk about your wonderful manager Justin there, when he sets that up, is it like you're in Thailand from like this date to this date, train where you'd like? Is it like plans? Did you stick at one gym? Like what kind of was literally like the training kind of plan while you were over there?
It was exactly that. My head coach Sam had a couple recommendations. Hey man, I think this gym. And the first gym I tried out, I was there for a week, and it wasn't the best just because there wasn't quite the right sized bodies for me, and it was a very heavy sparring gym where they sparred super light, but because there wasn't enough bodies, it was very difficult. It was just not the best dynamic. Had a great time there, but I felt that I needed to move off, and I went off to. So that was Sit Japo in Hua Hin. It's a little beach town, beautiful gym, beautiful town. And then went back to Bangkok after the first week and went to Superbond training camp for the next 2 weeks. Trained there with some of the fighters, a couple quite well-known one fighters and coaches and stuff out of there. And yeah, but this was all just on my own accord, sort of like was recommended where to go, and then went and tried it out for myself. And if I liked it, I stayed, and if I didn't, I moved off like I did. And yeah, got some great training in.
Now, no offense to the place, I don't know if I've ever been, but probably not as maybe nice and as sunny as Thailand. But I believe you're also recently doing rounds in Torquay, if I'm not mistaken. How was it to travel to Torquay and get some rounds there?
Yeah, really good. The guys there were receptive. It's always good to work out of bone. There's some really good guys coming up, and I've actually fought some of them before. Go upstairs when before sparring and notice there's a big photo of myself getting punched in the head there from a previous fight against one of the guys, which was cool. It's like, all right, you obviously know who I am. Yeah, but it's good just to get sparring and move around with new bodies, get different feels. Yeah, which has been good. Been doing so with a couple of boxing gyms down at Tiny Boxing, not too far from here. Just to get different feels, get different looks, and make sure I'm getting all my training in.
I said that it's far away because in my head, I'm back where I am, so I'm like, that's ages away. How far is Torquay for you? How much of a travel is it?
Probably the same distance from you to me, so we're looking about an hour. Yeah, you know, I don't think it's too bad. You know, get to see the beach and stuff. So there's always like a extra to it than just going to the gym. Yeah.
Do you get to do any fishing? I remember last time we did this, you were going fishing later that day. Did you get to do any fishing while you were there?
Unfortunately not. Nah. Yeah.
As someone who doesn't fish, I don't know if you do that at the beach.
Definitely, yeah. There's water at the beach, isn't there?
There is water at the beach, but there's also water in my bath, and I know there's no fish there.
That's true. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, you can fish at the beach, especially on the surf. It's good, real good surf fishing there.
We were talking about it before the cameras rolling, Jono. Me, not the most outdoorsman, so I don't know, bro. I don't know what goes on out there. Ocean's a mystery to me. I am from Frankston, but the ocean's a mystery to me. Talking about walking into a gym and there's a big photo of you getting punched. I'm sure that must be an odd feeling. On the flip side, a man that I don't believe you crossed paths with, but Jacob Lepage has moved to this gym, a man who has fought people out of here before. How is it to have him in the gym? And, like, was there an awkward moment like that as well, where he kind of came in and you're like, you fought our guys before?
Yeah, well, Jacob comes in and he's and on the mat. There's 3 people who he's beaten before, and so it was funny. You know, there's a bit of energy there, but super cool dude. You know, shake hands, and then there's no egos at the gym, especially not here. Combat One community gym. Although we're a lot of fighters, we're cool. Like, you know, that's just our like how we handle ourselves, and it's just our gym. But yeah, Jacob has moved down and has been a phenomenal training partner, man. Really good guy. In just terms of his personality, but also a really good guy on the mat. He's a great fighter.
A man I mentioned earlier, Kit Campbell. He was originally scheduled to fight on this card that you're fighting on. Unfortunately, he has pulled out of that bout. Before we talk about necessarily that, I would like to just ask, when that fight got announced for the interim title, what were your thoughts? Was that an opportunity that maybe you felt you should have been awarded, or what were your thoughts?
Nah, no. My thoughts were and still are. You can't be fighting for a title or an interim title without a win. You know, that's something that, like, the title's not worth really much if you're fighting for it on a loss. You know, and that's just my opinion. Some guys might think otherwise, but that's just me. So, I would have thought if it was to be offered to me, it'd be like not really that valued. You know, yeah. Even if it was just like a rematch against Alden, I think that, like, with only having 6 fights myself, I'd still want to get a win first. Yeah.
And with that fight, as I mentioned, that fight is, at the moment, as far as I'm concerned, that fight is off, meaning there hasn't been a replacement found. We are now a week out, so I would be blown away if a replacement was found, but stranger things have happened. What do you make of kind of the welterweight scene at the moment? I was having this conversation with Sammy yesterday when I saw him. A lot of the top-level guys are locked up right now. A lot of people are booked, and so there isn't necessarily a guy that could kind of step in and fight Caleb. What are your thoughts on the scene, and if they were to get someone, who do you think should step into that spot?
I think the scene at the moment's popping off. You know, you got Lockie Stitt, Eternal Champ, just came up against John Vake. You got Joey and Jack fighting for the beatdown belt. Another great fight. You know, the winner of that one could be a great potential. There's just so many potential matchups happening at the moment, which is awesome. What was the second part of the question? Sorry.
It's a real intense hypothetical, but if they were to get someone on a week's notice to step in for Caleb, who do you think should maybe take that role?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Look, the Caleb Alden fight was supposed to happen, wasn't it? Wasn't that the initial one? So I think that would just make sense. But I think it's getting Alden to make weight in a short amount of time is probably going to be a real difficult thing. So that's probably the only problem in that. And also, like, it probably bumps Caleb getting pushed from interim title to the actual title itself without fighting. So, yeah, I mean, you can play around with it. There's probably another couple fights that I haven't mentioned that would make sense, but it's not coming to me right now. Yeah,
I was going to say, that's a question that is like ultimate fantasy booker. I don't have an answer to that question, and I wrote the question. And I'm like, I have no clue who you'd put in there. I have no clue. Because as I said, like, all the top welterweights are really locked up right now, and they can't take you out because then that screws over Matt, and they can't take Matt out because that screws over you. Everyone's just like locked up. Finally, for me, at least the final one I have prepared, has the dad strength kicked in yet?
It hasn't yet. No, I'm still waiting on it. So maybe you'll see after my next fight, but I'm already so strong, so I'd actually feel sorry for these guys if it does kick in, mate. You know, it's fucking gonna be a problem. Nah, it hasn't. But I think the dad mentality has kicked in, like knowing that it's no longer just gonna be me fucking around, being able to do whatever I want. That there's a life that sort of under me that I've got to guide and be a role model for, which is it's heavy. You know, it's a really probably the heaviest thing. Like you can get stressed out from fighting and you know feel the pressure of that, but I think that this outdoes that by quite a lot. I've also never felt something like on the when every time I've got a fight coming up, you know, you might have a holiday or something booked, but you don't really think about that until the fight's happened. The fight is the main thing and the only thing that you're thinking about. But in this case, having a baby just blows it out of the water, you know. So it actually gives me. People might think of it as a distraction, but I think those people are like severely mistaken. Because for me, it's like a massive motivator, like a really huge motivator, knowing that I've got to. You know, the result of this fight might change the course of my baby's life. So I'm gonna do. You know, it's given me like a motivation to do absolutely everything in my power. To make sure that I win this fight, or at least that my career can go as far as it can possibly go. Yeah, so it just means me making sure I'm turning over every single stone, and more than just training hard, like recovering hard and making sure I'm giving back to the gym and there's just like a whole nother thing that's opening up. Yeah.
I would say maybe being a father is the ultimate captaincy. You know, you're a captain here, you'll be even more of a captain at home. You said you feel bad for your opponents if the dad strength kicked in. I feel bad for baby Micallef if you're like, wee, and it's just boom, straight up into the air. You mentioned, I think that's maybe a question I can ask you before your next fight. Is there like a date? Do we have a rough idea of when the baby's due?
Yeah. Not really any moment now. I think about 5 or 6 weeks now. So, it's quite soon. Yeah, about 5 or 6 weeks out. So, very exciting. Really, really exciting stuff. Yeah.
The last time we spoke was on your wedding anniversary, and then you fought the day before your birthday. And now, obviously, it's not as close, but, you know, the baby's on the way. Will you ever stop booking fights around big life events?
No, yeah, it's a hard thing to do. You know, you've got to be committed, Joel. You've got to, you know, you've got to do your thing. Yeah, so probably not, man. Probably not. Yeah, but look, if I'm gonna miss anything, or if I'm not gonna miss anything, the birth of my child's definitely something I'm not gonna fucking miss. But you can miss a birthday and an anniversary, mate. You know, they're not that important. Just book dinner on another fucking night. You know.
I'd love to hear Jackie's response to that. She called you just before. I'd love to hear what she thinks about you saying that.
Where the fuck are you? Nah, she's cool, man. She's real cool.
Talking about that commitment, we kind of talked about it at the top. The engine is just warm at this point. You know, you're just keeping everything nice and loose. We are a week out from your fight. What does the kind of the next week look like for you?
Next week, you know, I'll go in and hit pads a little bit, wrestle a little bit, but everything's minimal. Like I said, all the hard work is done now. It's just about making weight, and then after that, go and have a fist fight. Yeah, yeah, that's it, man.
Just that simple. Jono, I thank you so much for the time. It's always a pleasure. Best of luck in the fight. Thank you so much for the time.
Good chat, man.